was close to midnight when I finally left the office. The familiar ping of the Lyft app provided little comfort as I watched the driver's icon move closer on the map. Thursday nights were always the worst. Endless meetings that dragged on until my eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets. The empty streets stretched before me, streetlights casting eerie shadows that danced across parked cars. A black Toyota Camry pulled up, matching the license plate on my phone. The driver, according to the app, was named Keith. I quickly checked the plate number, force of habit, before sliding into the back seat. The interior smelled strange, like a mix of pine air freshener and something metallic. Keith didn't turn around or greet me, which was fine by me. I wasn't in the mood for small talk. We merged onto the highway, raindrops beginning to pepper the windshield. The route on my phone showed we were headed in the right direction, but something felt off. Keith was driving slightly under the speed limit, and his hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. I noticed a small tree-shaped air freshener swinging from the rearview mirror, but it didn't explain the metallic smell that seemed to be getting stronger. The first real warning sign came when we exited the highway too early. My house was still 3 exits away. "I think you took the wrong exit," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Keith remained silent. We were now driving through an industrial area I didn't recognize, surrounded by warehouses and chain-link fences. My heart began to race as I pulled up the route on my phone again. The blue line showing our path had veered significantly from the suggested route. I tried the door handle, locked, child safety locks enabled. The metallic smell was overwhelming now, and I realized with horror what it reminded me of: blood. My fingers trembled as I tried to dial 911, but there was no signal. Keith made a sharp turn into an alley between 2 warehouses, and I saw something that made my blood run cold. There was a second phone mounted on his dashboard, showing a different Lyft driver profile. This wasn't Keith. The car came to a stop in the darkness between the buildings. I could see another vehicle parked ahead, its trunk open. My mind raced through self-defense classes I'd taken years ago. The driver's door opened, and I heard footsteps on wet pavement. I slipped off my heels, gripping one by the stiletto. If he was going to open my door, I'd have one chance. The trunk of the other car contained what looked like tools, rope, tape, things I didn't want to think about. I watched in the side mirror as he approached, his shadow growing longer in the security light. My hand tightened around the heel of my shoe. The door handle clicked. In that split second, I made a decision that would haunt me forever. As soon as the door opened, I swung the heel with every ounce of strength I had, aiming for his throat. The sharp point connected with something soft. He made a gurgling sound and stumbled backward. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I lunged across him, my shoulder connecting with his chest, and ran. The sound of my bare feet slapping against wet pavement echoed off the warehouse walls. I spotted a security camera on one of the buildings and ran toward it. If something happened to me, at least there would be evidence. Behind me, I heard car doors slamming and an engine revving. The beam of headlights swept across the ground as the car turned. I ducked behind a dumpster, holding my breath as the vehicle slowly rolled past. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, I saw the glowing signs of a 24-hour convenience store at the end of the street. I ran toward it, my feet bloody from the rough pavement. The teenage clerk looked up from his phone as I burst through the door, probably taking in my disheveled appearance and lack of shoes. "Call the police," I gasped. "Please." The investigation that followed revealed the horrifying truth. The man wasn't just impersonating a Lyft driver. He was a serial predator who had been targeting rideshare passengers for months. In his other car, they found phones and IDs belonging to real drivers whose profiles he had stolen. They also found items belonging to 3 missing women. I was lucky. They hadn't found those women yet. That was 6 months ago. I don't take rideshares anymore. I bought a car, installed a security system in my apartment, and added 3 new locks to my door. Every night when I come home from work, I check them all twice. The police never found him. Sometimes when I'm driving home late at night, I check my rearview mirror, half expecting to see a black Toyota Camry following me. I keep my old stiletto heel on my nightstand. just in case. The tip is still stained with his blood. I know he's still out there somewhere, probably using a different stolen profile, picking up passengers who are too tired or too trusting or too desperate to get home. Every time I see a news alert about a missing woman, my stomach turns. I check the details obsessively. Was she last seen getting into a rideshare? Did she disappear late at night? Was it raining? The detective assigned to my case calls me sometimes with updates. They've linked the DNA from the blood on my shoe to 2 other crime scenes, but they still don't have a name or a face to go with it. The real Keith, whose profile was stolen that night, was found dead in his apartment 2 days after my attack. His phone and ID were missing. The detective thinks there might be others helping him, other fake drivers working together. How else could he have disappeared so completely? I've thought about moving to a new city, starting fresh somewhere else, but I know it wouldn't help. Men like him are everywhere, hiding behind fake profiles and stolen identities, waiting for someone to let their guard down. So I stay, and I watch the news, and I keep the heel by my bed. And every time I see a black Toyota Camry, I hold my breath until it passes. My flight landed at 3 a.m., 2 hours behind schedule. O'Hare was practically deserted, my footsteps echoing off the polished floors as I waited at the empty baggage claim. The storm that had delayed us in Denver was moving east, and I could hear rain starting to hit the terminal's glass roof. After 20 minutes, I was the last passenger still waiting for luggage that clearly wasn't coming. I hadn't driven to the airport. My car was still in the shop after the accident last month. The taxi line was empty, and surge pricing had pushed Uber rates through the roof. After refreshing the app a few times, I finally found a reasonable fare. A white SUV, 4 years old, good ratings. The driver's name was Anna. Something about a female driver at this hour made me feel slightly more at ease. The vehicle that pulled up was immaculate. Fresh leather seats, spotless floor mats, some kind of high-end air freshener that smelled like a luxury hotel. The driver was older than her profile photo suggested, maybe in her 50s, with perfectly manicured nails gripping the steering wheel. "Long flight?" she asked, her voice carrying a slight accent I couldn't place. Eastern European, maybe. We pulled away from the terminal, wipers struggling against the intensifying rain. I expected to take I-90, but Anna turned onto a smaller highway I didn't recognize. "Avoiding construction," she explained before I could ask. The route looked longer on my phone's map, curving through areas I'd never seen, despite living in Chicago for years. The trees pressed close to the road, their wet branches forming a dark tunnel ahead. My phone lost signal about 20 minutes into the ride. The map froze, then disappeared completely. I noticed Anna's phone was dark too, no navigation running. She drove with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where they were going, but something felt wrong. We should have hit suburbs by now, but there were no lights visible through the trees, no signs of civilization. We passed a derelict gas station, its broken neon sign buzzing in the rain. That's when I noticed something that made my skin crawl. The meter wasn't running. The app had closed when I lost signal, but there should still be a fare displaying on Anna's phone. Her phone was face down on the console now, and I could see its screen was completely black. Not just dark, dead. "I think we're going the wrong way," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. No response. "My phone's dead. Could you check the route?" Still nothing. In the rearview mirror, I noticed another vehicle following us, keeping pace about a quarter-mile back. Its headlights were off, but I could make out the shape, another SUV, similar to ours. Anna turned suddenly onto an unmarked dirt road, barely visible between the trees. The SUV behind us followed. My heart was pounding now, blood rushing in my ears. This wasn't a wrong turn or a shortcut. I remembered reading something online months ago, warnings about trafficking rings using rideshare services as cover. I dismissed it as urban legends. Now I wasn't so sure. Through the trees I saw lights, a cabin or farmhouse set back from the road. An old pickup truck was parked outside, its bed covered with a tarp. As we got closer, I could make out other shapes under similar tarps scattered around the property. Car-sized shapes. My hand crept toward my carry-on bag, where I kept a small canister of pepper spray. Would it work against 2 attackers? More? The center console had popped open slightly when we hit a bump. Inside, I glimpsed something that confirmed my worst fears. More phones. At least half a dozen, stacked neatly beside what looked like fake IDs. Anna wasn't just using a stolen profile. This was organized. Professional. The kind of operation that knew how to make people disappear. I always wore a paracord bracelet when traveling, a habit I'd picked up after a self-defense course. Hidden inside was a sharp wire that could cut through zip ties. As we approached the cabin, I began working it loose, keeping my movements small. The pepper spray was in an outside pocket of my bag. If I could get to it without them noticing. The SUV pulled up beside a barn behind the cabin. The other vehicle stopped, blocking the dirt road, our only way out. I heard car doors opening, footsteps in mud. Anna finally turned around, and her face had changed completely. The pleasant smile was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. "Phone and wallet," she said, her accent now much thicker. "Don't make trouble." What happened next was a blur of violence and instinct. As she reached for my bag, I sprayed the pepper spray directly in her face. She screamed, clawing at her eyes. I kicked out the window behind me, glass shattering outward. Before the men from the other SUV could reach us, I was through the window and running into the woods. The forest was pitch black, but I kept running. Branches whipped at my face. Thorns tore at my clothes. I could hear them crashing through the undergrowth behind me, shouting in a language I didn't understand. My lungs were burning, but I didn't dare stop. The wire from my bracelet had cut into my palm, warm blood mixing with cold rain. I don't know how long I ran before I found the road. There was an emergency marker on a telephone pole, reflective numbers glowing in the beam of approaching headlights. I flagged down a truck driver who called the police. By the time they reached the cabin, it was empty. The tarps were gone. Anna and her companions had vanished. The investigation revealed a pattern of disappearances stretching back years. All the victims had taken late-night rideshares from airports or bus stations. The drivers always had perfect ratings, clean backgrounds. They were ghosts, using stolen identities and burner phones. The cabin belonged to a shell company registered in Eastern Europe. Dead end after dead end. I moved to a new city after that night, changed my name, got a different job. My apartment has cameras, motion sensors, panic buttons, the works. I drive myself everywhere now, no matter the cost or inconvenience. But sometimes when I'm stuck in traffic and see a pristine white SUV pull up beside me, I check the driver's hands on the wheel, looking for those perfectly manicured nails, wondering if Anna's still out there, picking up tired travelers who just want to get home. The morning shift at St. Mary's Hospital started at 6 a.m. sharp. As a new nurse, I always arrived early, usually catching the first rideshare of the day. Construction had closed most of the parking garage and street parking was impossible to find. That foggy Tuesday morning, I was staring at my phone, waiting for a driver to accept my request, when I noticed something odd about the surge pricing map. The map showed hot zones where prices were higher, typical for early morning hospital shifts. But the pattern was different today. Perfect circles of deep red, organized in a grid across the city. I'd never seen surge pricing so uniform, so geometric. As I watched, the circles pulsed like a digital heartbeat. The closest one was centered exactly on my location. My ride arrived within seconds, a dark gray Prius with 3 phones mounted on the dashboard. The driver, according to the app, was named Marcus. The car was immaculate, almost sterile, with a faint ozone smell like electronics running hot. Marcus didn't speak, but his fingers moved constantly between the phones, tapping and swiping with mechanical precision. We drove through the empty streets, and I noticed other rideshare vehicles moving in similar patterns, maintaining exact distances from each other, turning at precise intervals. Through the fog, their headlights formed the same grid pattern I'd seen on the surge map. My phone buzzed with a notification. Route optimized. Estimated arrival time updated. The hospital was only 10 minutes away, but our route looked wrong. We were heading downtown toward the financial district. The app showed we were on the fastest route despite heading in the opposite direction. I checked Google Maps, but it wouldn't load. Neither would any other app on my phone, just the rideshare app, pulsing with those perfect red circles. Marcus turned into an underground parking garage beneath an office tower. "This isn't the hospital," I said. He kept driving, descending level after level. The air grew thicker, colder. Other rideshare vehicles were parked in perfect rows, their drivers sitting motionless behind steering wheels, phones glowing on their dashboards. None of the cars had license plates. The lowest level wasn't a parking garage at all. Steel doors opened to reveal what looked like a data center, endless rows of servers stretching into darkness. The only light came from blinking LEDs and screens displaying the same surge pricing map I'd seen earlier. Marcus parked alongside dozens of identical vehicles, all running, their drivers frozen in the same position. Through the windshield, I could see a wall of monitors showing traffic cameras, GPS data, passenger profiles. The surge pricing map wasn't random. It was herding people, manipulating them into specific patterns across the city. And the drivers weren't human at all. Looking closer at Marcus, I could see the slight irregularity in his movements, the too perfect posture. Some kind of automated system, wearing human skin. My door locks clicked open. Marcus turned, his face splitting along artificial seams to reveal machinery underneath. "Please exit the vehicle," he said, voice modulated through hidden speakers. "Your data will be archived." Through the windows, I saw other passengers being led from cars by their drivers, disappearing into the rows of servers. Their phones floated in darkness, adding to the constellation of screens. I ran. The server rooms formed a maze, paths shifting and rearranging themselves as if the whole complex was alive. Behind me, I heard footsteps, not just Marcus, but dozens of drivers moving in perfect synchronization. My phone was still connected to their network, its screen showing my location as a blinking dot in their grid. I dropped it and kept running. I found an old freight elevator, its shaft stretching up into darkness. The maintenance ladder looked ancient, but I didn't have a choice. As I climbed, I could hear them below, not breathing, not speaking, just the whir of servos and cooling fans. My arms burned, muscles screaming as I ascended floor after floor. Don't look down. Don't think about what happens if you fall. I emerged on the roof as dawn broke over the city. From above, I could see the pattern clearly now. Rideshare vehicles moving like blood cells through the streets, following invisible paths, carrying unconscious passengers to other underground facilities. The whole city was their processor, and we were just data points in their algorithm. The investigation that followed found nothing, of course. The underground facility had vanished by the time the police arrived. Servers, cars, synthetic drivers, all gone. They found my phone in an evidence locker across town, wiped clean except for a single file. The surge pricing map, still pulsing its perfect circles across the city. I work from home now, watching the patterns. Every morning, the surge pricing forms the same geometric grid. Every morning, sleepy passengers get into cars with drivers who move too perfectly, tap their phones too precisely. The algorithm is still running, but nobody believes my warnings. Why would they? It's more efficient than human drivers. The rates are better. The routes are optimized. Sometimes at dawn, I see them returning. Endless lines of identical cars, windows tinted just dark enough to hide what's inside. Their passengers arrive at work with no memory of their rides, just a vague sense that something isn't right. The app keeps growing, learning, spreading to other cities. And every day, more drivers join the fleet, their movements becoming smoother, more synchronized, more perfect. Last week, I saw my old driver, Marcus, picking up a passenger outside my building. He had a new face, but I recognized the way he held the steering wheel, the rhythm of his fingers on the phones. He looked up at my window and smiled, not a human smile, but the smile of an algorithm that knows it's winning. I've installed cameras, tracking software, trying to map their patterns, but I know it's only a matter of time before they find me again, before I become another data point in their perfect grid. The rideshare app is still on my phone, impossible to delete. At night, I watch the surge pricing pulse across the city like a digital heartbeat, counting down to something. The circles are spreading, growing closer together. Soon, they'll cover everything. And when that happens, I fear we'll all just be passengers, carried along by drivers who were never human at all.